What's up, guys? Welcome back to Corey's Garage, brought to you by Reese Motorsports, home of the Franken-7 project car. So today we had some updates. Started the day off on another little parts run. I've been hunting down trying to find some new or reman brake calipers for this thing, and it being an 86, it being so old, and being up here in the Midwest, seems like they've pretty much written it off. So I got the part numbers from the big three, so O'Reilly's, Advance, and AutoZone, and visited all three, and none of them are able to be ordered through their vendors or through their corporate or whatever. So that was a strikeout. Then I went to a Napa because I used to work at Napa, and I was really good at finding anything and everything. So I was hoping someone there might be able to help and do the same thing, but they tried, but they were able to find like the right side, so like the right front, the right rear, but they couldn't find the left side, and I wanted to do all four new. So then I thought, last resort, there's got to be a Mazda dealership around somewhere, so I had to go to Merrillville to the Mazda dealership there, and dude was super helpful. He looked through every book and everything he could, but yeah, they're just obsolete. They're just not making them anymore. So there's a few floating around, but they're very hard to find. So got back home, was a little discouraged, but determined to find something that would work. So if you're a 240SX owner and you want to upgrade your brakes for the cheap, you move up a model. So you go to a 300ZX brake because they bolt on with the factory mounting hardware and mounting locations. So I thought, well, I wonder what an FD rotor, if that's it, or not a rotor, but a caliper is any different. Maybe if they're the same, maybe it's just a little bit different, but maybe they'll mount up the same. So did a little research and found out that in fact, they are interchangeable. So you can swap on FD calipers and still run your FC rotors or FD rotors if you want. So I already have cross-drilled and slotted rotors. I've got the pads that came with them, but I went ahead and got the front calipers from Rock Auto with Powerstop pads, like performance pads, and then I found on eBay the unlikely event that someone was actually selling some rear FC calipers from California, so they're pretty clean. So I am getting new brakes finally, so I'm excited about that. And they weren't terribly expensive. I think all in all, everything's going to be like $400, not including the rotors I've already been owning for a year, sitting in a box. I think those were $100 or 120 or something. So $500 brake system, and then I just got $60 stainless lines, so $560 for pretty kick-ass brake setup. No, it's not a, Brembo, Gran Turismo, freaking 6 or 8 piston caliper monster setup, but it'll stop a 2,600 pound car, no problem. So I'm excited about that. So parts came in today. What did we get? I got my fuel pump and my short steering wheel hub adapter. I did not get the steering wheel yet. It's probably going to be here tomorrow. So. But I did get the hub, and I got the fuel pump, and the fuel pump is basically the same as this. This is the little Kimzo 340 liter per hour fuel pump from eBay. I watched a few videos on it. I was going to go with a regular old Walbro 255, but that was $100. This was $30, and I've seen some videos of people using them, and they seem to work just fine, so I figured it was worth a shot. It's easy to change if I did have to pull it out and do it again, so I figure for $30 it's worth a shot. And then today's project, actually working on the car, was I got everything but the line coming out of the fuel filter regulator. I've got the C5 Corvette fuel filter regulator combo. I have it mounted down low. I'll show you in a second, underneath the brake master cylinder on the firewall side. So I got all new lines plumbed. So I've got full rubber return line, and then part rubber, part steel line made for the pressure line. So I did end up getting like 15 feet of rubber hose today. I thought that was going to be enough to do feed and return. But yeah, I ran a little short. I only had about 4 feet by the time I was done. So, but I was trying to, like, looking at the sending unit on the RX-7. It's basically just flared fittings coming out. So that tells me that it's not super duper high pressure. So to not worry too much about like AN fittings and stuff like that. Although my fuel rails are AN and their connectors are AN, and I've got some adapters that goes with this filter that's like a -6 AN. So I will have to have one line made, or get some fittings and make a line. But that shouldn't be too bad. Not too worried about that. Um, but um, but yeah. So I had to cut, flare, bend. I put all new P clamps underneath there, so it's actually routed really nice. I'm not going to get under there again to show you, but I've got like 6 P clamps all along the driver's side frame rail, and that's where the fuel and the return line are going. So factory location, and tucked it up nice and tight against the floor side there. So I'm pretty happy with how it turned out for what it is. That's a good piece to the puzzle, and that was something I wanted to knock out before the rear diff and the rear subframe goes back in, just because I had all the room available. So I'm very, very thankful that part is done and behind me now. Hopefully the fittings and the clamps don't leak. I got the high pressure, like actual fuel fuel line clamps, not just hose clamps, but like fuel line, heavy duty, tighten them down, snug clamps. And then I flared the where it comes out of the fuel pump. I put a rubber hose there, and then basically the hard line for the frame rail. And so I flared that, but I basically stripped the the wing nut on my Matco flaring tool, so I couldn't get it quite tight enough to flare the other end. It got a little bit of a flare in there, not much, but I think it's enough to, I put another one of those super duper strong clamps on there to make sure that it'll hold. So I don't expect it to leak, but at least everything's pretty accessible if I do need to alter it at all. But I'm pretty happy with how everything turned out. I do want to, I had to do a little cleaning up of some rust. Some of the patch panels that I welded last year just had surface rust on them. So I ground those off with a drill and a wire wheel and all that stuff, and breathed in a bunch of dust and had some dusty boogers. And then just sprayed that side with Rust-Oleum satin black, kind of like how my interior of the car looks right now. So I'm going to do the full underside and do it nice and thick of that Rust-Oleum satin black, since that's supposed to help stop rust from progressing. I mean, it's pretty much clean. There's just a few spots here and there where, it started, or, rock chips or whatever. Whatever the case is. But the chassis is still pretty solid. So should be getting the intake tomorrow or the next day, and and I'm still waiting on the front main seal, rear main seal, and I did get the LS1 alternator today, and I should be getting the starter for the Z32 Trans tomorrow. So this engine is almost ready to put together and put in the car, bolt it down, and make my cross member. So I'm getting really, really, really excited about that. I almost just want to skip out on the front and rear seals, but I don't, because that would really suck to do all this work, and then every time you park there's a puddle underneath it. Not that it showed any signs that it was leaking beforehand, but since it's out, might as well, because that really would suck to have to run into that after all this time and all this dedication towards everything else. So, but yeah, so that was that was a debacle with those calipers today. Jeez, I didn't think I was ever gonna find them, and I really didn't want to rebuild the ones I have. I hate rust. I just hate it so much. It's so bad, and it's so annoying. And I know that's how a lot of you guys deal with it up here, but man, it's just unreal. Like, I didn't mind bending that line so much. I mean, that sucked. It wasn't fun at all. 3/8 line is pretty thick, pretty hefty. But but that was not very fun to have to bend that without a bending tool or whatever, just bending it over my knee and bending it over my hip bone and stuff. But it's not perfectly straight by any means, but it works. So I'll put the pictures on Facebook. I'm actually done before midnight tonight, which is crazy because here usually I'm filming at 1:30 and scrambling to get to bed and then lay there awake even though I'm exhausted. So I'm going to try to get to bed here in the next few minutes, but I will put today's pictures up on Facebook. They're not anything super duper crazy, just me changing the fuel pump over and cleaning up the sending unit. I had to sand it down, had to do some light wiring, and yeah, put it back together, put it in the tank, and put a little RTV around the lip of the tank. Even though there is a gasket there, it's kind of dried out. So I just put a little RTV there just to kind of help it seal and hold it together. And then I put new hardware, new mounting bolts from the top hat. So I hope it holds. I hope it works. Yeah, I guess that's all I have for tonight. So I'm still expecting a lot more parts. I ordered throttle cable today from eBay, and of course those calipers. And I need to get some lug nuts. I've only had like 3 on each wheel since I've had this car, so I'm not gonna get anything crazy. Although I do kind of want some of those spiky, goofy, fun ones, but I'll probably just get just like black standard lug nuts, nothing crazy. But we'll see. I might change my mind. I don't know. But see what else I got. What else do I need to order? I don't know if I need to do all new coils. I would like to, just to have new ones and new wires to go with my new spark plugs. I found a few companies on eBay that do 8 coils, 8 wires for like $120, which isn't terrible. So I might pick those up. And then I was looking at the GPS speedometers earlier. I hope this harness that comes in, like I hope it is labeled like which wire is which, because I would love for the tack to work. It probably won't. In fact, I'll probably have to just make my own kind of gauge panel. So I'll just try to keep it simple with, you know, a tack, a speedometer, like water temp, and oil pressure. And that's probably all I'll really care about in all honesty. Because we'll know if the battery's not charging. And if the water temp is up, I'm sure the oil temp is right behind it. So I personally wouldn't worry too much about that. But it is, I guess, ideal. But I just don't like those. You know, you see these pictures of these old school cars where they had like a million gauges in there. Like the, I always think about that old Top Gear with Jeremy Clarkson driving that crazy 1,000 horsepower R33 Skyline, and he's talking about, you know, there's a temperature gauge for the front of the engine. There's a temperature gauge for the back of the engine. There's a temperature gauge for the middle of the engine. And you see a picture, and it's just all these gauges all over the dash. That is way too much. Of course, that was like probably 2000, maybe 2005. That was before all of our, you know, crazy digital dashes and, you know, all the cool stuff we have now that I still can afford. But it's cool to enjoy it through other people. But I like simple. I love the KISS, keep it simple, stupid. That is definitely something I keep in mind for this build. Like, I just want to keep it simple, reliable, powerful, fun. I don't want to ever go too crazy over my head. You know, when these people start talking about, you know, adapt this and, you know, like with the brakes, I know I was starting to think in the realm of if I couldn't find those calipers, you know, what other stock calipers that are affordable that will work, that are good. And someone said like ATS-V, Cadillac, CTS-V. Someone said like Evo 9, Evo 10, but that's starting to get into the expensive category. Someone said something about Mustang calipers on their car. Like, wow. I mean, I guess caliper's a caliper. They all work the same. It's just how they actually mount on there. And I'm not much of a fabricator. I can do a few little things here and there when I have to. But they're usually not pretty. They'll work, but they're not pretty. So I don't know if I would trust myself trying to, you know, cut out an adapter plate to bolt some other caliper from some other car onto this and it hold up. Like, I don't know. Um, Also, I was talking with my wife earlier. I mean, I'm going to try to get as much done as I can before I go back to work. But I think realistically, my goal for the car to be like done uh, is going to be LS Fest this year. So I plan to unveil it to all 19 of my subscribers at LS Fest in Bowling Green. I'm not sure what the dates are just yet. I hadn't checked their website, but if it's still going on, usually it's like the third weekend in September. So hopefully, wherever I'm at in the world, hopefully I can be off that weekend and probably drive the car down. I mean, it's like 6 hours from here, but if the exhaust isn't too terribly loud, and maybe if I get some Bluetooth speakers or something in the car, because I'm not going to have a radio, but I'll have my phone, and I could, maybe do some Bluetooth speakers or headphones or something, or ear whatever they're called, ear pods, ear bobbies. Um, it wouldn't be too terribly loud, and just kind of keep an eye on my surroundings. But I do want it to be a driver. Um, that would be a lot, though, like driving a loud, rattly, stiff suspension, craziness car to LS Fest, but it'd be a lot of fun too. And my brother's talking about finally going this year, so we could kind of meet up and have our two LS cars together finally, even though he's in Georgia and I'm here. So, but anyways, that's all I got for tonight. You guys take care. I'm trying not to ramble too much. I know I still did, but I'm just glad to be making progress every day, even if it's little stuff. But this fuel plumbing was that was a bigger one off the list. I think I can check that off the list. Yeah. So that's on the list. I can go ahead and scratch that out. So that feels good. And then hopefully tomorrow I'll have some more updates for you. Maybe I'll get some front sills in and can put my front cover back on. And let's see, I got the alternator. So if I get that and the intake and stuff, like I'll basically have the engine put together. And if I can get the sills and all that good stuff, I'll go ahead and get the adapter plate and clutch and flywheel and all that good stuff put on, and then put the engine and transmission in it, and see where we are as far as making the cross member. So that'll be cool. But anyways, you guys take care. I'll see you soon. Hopefully we'll have some updates for you tomorrow.